Spoilers ahead. Watch out, and take care. The movie begins with a man named Teddy Moretto, speeding in a stolen police car on a busy Nevada highway. He looks terrified and anxious, as if someone is chasing him. Unfortunately, the car breaks down in the middle of a desolate sandy road. As a result, he is forced to continue wandering near the Nevada border, carrying a briefcase containing money and vital documents, stolen from a mafia member. Meanwhile, two police officers are conversing near the Nevada border. Valerie, a young police officer, receives a gun as a gift from her employer, Coleman. She practices her new gun with cowboy-like hand moves. Later, the two officers learn that disturbances have been reported at a wedding, not far from the Nevada casino, and they both rush to the scene. By the time they arrive, the situation degenerates into chaos. Several individuals are fighting in front of the building, and Valerie fires a gun in the air as a warning. Teddy, a business consultant we saw earlier, hits her from behind, and slams her to the ground. He raises his hands in surrender after Valerie's partner points a gun at him. Soon, Valerie uses a taser to immobilize Teddy. She arrests him on assault charges against a police officer. A hitman named Bob Vidic is watching Teddy from a distance. He was hired by one of Teddy's clients to assassinate him, because he had stolen money and valuable documents. Consequently, Teddy's decision to surrender at the police station is an attempt to protect himself from Bob's pursuit. As soon as he arrives at the station, he is searched. The police discover a large sum of money in his suitcase and documents. During the search, Valerie discovers a bullet wound in his stomach, and asks what happened. He however prefers to keep his mouth shut. Next, the police chief, Coleman, arrives and orders all officers to get to work. Coleman receives a phone call informing him that one of his colleagues has been hit by a speeding car, whose driver is drunk. Valerie treats Teddy's wound and tries to get him to talk, but to no avail. Coleman arrives and informs him that they have found the car he abandoned on the road. Teddy refuses to talk about it, and asks to make a call. He calls his girlfriend, and suggests they leave town with their son as soon as possible. He is then imprisoned in a holding cell, confined to a cell by himself, and avoids the other inmates. The drunk man, Bob, is arrested, and taken to the police station. They lock him in a cell, and Teddy notices that he is acting strangely. When he asks what they locked him up for, the man stops pretending to be drunk, and reveals himself to be the murderer who is chasing him to kill him. Teddy starts screaming to call the security guards, and the killer reveals that he knows where his wife lives. Teddy shuts his mouth and tells the guard nothing. Bob purposely got drunk and fought with the police, to be imprisoned along with the man he was supposed to kill. Teddy offers him double the price paid by his client to avoid killing him. However, Bob is an experienced assassin, and refuses the offer, with no intention of abandoning his mission. Next, we see an agent named Huber receiving a message from an unknown number. He evidently works with pushers, and takes a bag to fill it with stuff that the police have confiscated. Among Bob's personal belongings is a device that begins to emit smoke. Eventually this sets off the alarm. Bob's cellmate, also a drunken inmate, wakes up and starts taunting him. But the prisoner is unaware that the man in his cell is a dangerous murderer. Bob begins to strike his cellmate with quick movements to the throat, until he vomits blood, intending to wreak havoc and draw the police into his cell. Coleman, the station chief, comes in to check on the situation. He enters to check on the cellmate, who is lying unconscious on the floor. Coleman, who is bending over to assess the situation, is abruptly attacked from behind by Bob, who manages to grab the revolver tucked in his belt. He points the gun at Teddy, and fires repeatedly to kill him. Fortunately, Teddy manages to jump and hide under the bed. Valerie, who unexpectedly points a gun at Bob, foils his plan to kill Teddy. She threatens to shoot Bob in the head if he doesn't put the gun down. He submits, and his hands are tied to the iron bars of the cell. She then assists Coleman and the inmate in being transported to the treatment room. She then returns and interrogates Bob and Teddy. At first, both kept their mouths shut. Teddy is forced to speak after Valerie threatens to put him in the same cell as Bob. According to his confession, Teddy is a counselor, and many of his clients are wealthy criminals. However, while performing his duties, he commits numerous frauds and steals valuable goods and money from his clients. As a result, murderers are on his trail. Valerie looks at Bob, who is sitting on the floor with one hand cuffed. Teddy says that before he ended up here, he had turned himself into the Nevada police station. However, some corrupt cops took him to the Nevada desert to kill him, because they were chasing money stolen from clients. Fortunately, the FBI arrived just as he was about to be executed, and a shootout broke out between the corrupt Nevada cops and the FBI. Bob boarded a police car and escaped. It is the escape that took place at the beginning. Valerie decides to contact a colleague who had served on the Nevada border, Detective Dina Shire, to see if Teddy is telling the truth. She asks Detective Dina if there had been a shootout between the police and the FBI near the Nevada border, as claimed by Teddy. Valerie, however, doesn't know that the policewoman is one of the corrupt agents who must find Teddy. Consequently, she lies, saying that there was no shooting. Valerie then asks one of her colleagues, Officer Kimball, to look up Bob's profile in the police database. Officer Kimball discovers on the computer the profile of another killer, Anthony, in addition to Bob's. Anthony is known to be a vicious psychopath who kills his victims without compassion. A delivery man who is delivering balloons enters the police station. Officer Kimball realizes that the bellhop in front of him is Anthony, the killer on the computer screen. Unexpectedly, Anthony fires a gun in Officer Kimball's face, killing him in a split second. He then opens fire on all police officers who arrive. Unfortunately, when the officers go inside, they don't have time to realize what is happening, as Anthony moves like lightning, killing them quickly. Valerie enters soon after, and warns Anthony to put down his revolver. He stops for a second, and then shoots her, trying to kill her. She is wounded and enters the room with the cells, quickly locking the door to protect herself. She is now sitting in front of Teddy and Bob. The prison door proves to be bulletproof, and despite a barrage of gunfire, Anthony is unable to break through it. Valerie is beginning to lose strength due to the injury, and stares at Bob and Teddy. Officer Huber, who is escorting Coleman, fires a gunshot at him and the inmate. Officer Huber turns out to be one of the corrupt cops working with Anthony. Both received orders from the same mob, which is also one of Teddy's clients. He is wanted by the mob for swindling them. As a result, 2 assassins try to murder Teddy, but they serve different clients. Officer Huber is outside the prison cell, and tries to fool Valerie by claiming that Anthony has left the police station. Valerie becomes suspicious and does not listen to him. Eventually, Officer Huber becomes irritated, shouts and walks away. Next, Anthony and Officer Huber plan to break through the wall leading to Teddy's cell. Before breaking through the barricade, the two examine the floor plan of the police station. Teddy tries to persuade Valerie to let him go, with the promise that he will return with a medical kit for her. Valerie has no choice but to give him the key to the cell door, and a revolver, so that Teddy can fight Anthony before the wall is broken through. When he is preparing to leave the cell, Bob says that Anthony killed his wife and children. Teddy gets enraged and storms out of the cell. Officer Huber continues to hit the wall, while Anthony sits and watches. 2 police officers on duty that day arrive unexpectedly. Without thinking, Anthony murders Officer Huber's 2 colleagues. Soon, Teddy comes out from the opposite direction with his revolver. He pursues Anthony and Officer Huber, who flee to the other room. Valerie realizes that Teddy has lied to her, when she hears gunshots coming from another room. As a result, she is forced to release Bob, who is still in the cell. Soon, Bob leaves the room to hunt down Teddy. Suddenly, someone turns off the power, and it is completely dark inside the police station. Officer Huber is fleeing and trying to evade Teddy's pursuit. Unfortunately, he is stopped by Bob. The hitman takes the gun hidden in Officer Huber's belt, and shoots the policeman several times in the leg. Bob then uses Officer Huber's body to get Anthony into the room. It is not long before Anthony arrives, thinking that Huber has shot someone. Bob comes up behind him, starting a fight. The age gap is considerable. Bob looks younger than Anthony, who is already elderly. Bob is forced to fight Anthony with his bare hands because he has lost his gun. The fight is intense. Anthony takes a knife and prepares to stab Bob in the stomach. However, Bob is more competent in hand-to-hand combat, spots the attack, and using his strength, parries the stabbing attempt. He then strikes Anthony's chest again. Teddy emerges and fires a shotgun blast at Bob, just as he was about to finish Anthony off. Bob runs away, abandoning Anthony, who is dying. Teddy approaches Anthony and fires a lethal shot, and starts pouring liquid fuel into the room, in an attempt to set it on fire. He then heads to the kitchen of the police station. Valerie enters the kitchen and informs him that he will not be able to leave, because she has already contacted the FBI to arrest him. He gets furious and throws a can of gasoline at her. Fortunately, she manages to jump and dodge the attack. She then runs upstairs, as Teddy chases after her. Next, she shoots him directly in the chest, who lands downstairs. When she comes down to see his condition, her fellow police officer, Detective Dina, appears and shoots her. The detective is one of the dirty cops who previously targeted Teddy during the shootout with the FBI near the Nevada border. Valerie, who is sitting limply on a table, is facing Detective Dina, approaching her with a loaded weapon. Detective Dina is ready to fire the shotgun at Valerie, but fortunately, Bob arrives to save her, and immediately shoots the detective. Bob then approaches Teddy, who is already limp and unable to move. Bob continues his mission to eliminate Teddy, shooting him twice. He then rushes away with Teddy's belongings, which the police had confiscated earlier, and helps Valerie to safety outside, advising her to let it go. As he drives away, the FBI arrives at the police station. While being taken away by ambulance, Valerie gets a radio dispatch about a stolen police vehicle from the station. She commandeers the ambulance in pursuit of Bob, who is seen casually driving on a deserted road near the Nevada desert, both singing the same song on radio. The end. Thank you for watching. Subscribe if you'd like to see more videos like this. Turn on the notifications, and leave a like to help the channel out.